if you take a look at sort of best watches for price points, let's say you're starting a collection. So the first watches that I owned were fashion watches. Right? These are things like Fossil or Tissot or Seiko. I would recommend, by the way, at these price levels, that you try to...
Those three brands are three very, very different brands. I would not put Seiko and Tissot in the fashion line of things. Those are intro luxury watches, whereas Fossil is a fashion watch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, you put Fossil in there with probably Guess, trying to think, so Swatch watch,
like
maybe
any of your,
maybe not an Accutron, a Caravel or a what's an entry level
but
brand? Another brand.
Even to me, like that's your Tory Burch, your Michael Kors,
Nixon.
Those are fashion brands. Those are like your.
You go to the department store, you look for something cool, Daniel Wellington, something that goes with your outfit, a reasonable watch that you can slap on your wrist. Tissot is, I agree with you, entry-level luxury, has some cool complications to it. Seiko has really changed their pattern. You know, it used to be the old advertising 30, 40, 50 years ago. I've got a Seiko. I've had my Seiko for 20 years. I've got 5 Seikos. Seiko is become a luxury brand, especially with Spring Drive, Grand Seiko. It's
not your father's Seiko.
The Prospect collection, the Presage collection. Super cool stuff that Seiko's doing. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that not
that's
thrilled
like
with that.
that's like entry level luxury. You're talking about those brands are starting at almost $1,000 now.
Yeah.
For those brands, not I think of fashion watches probably
under
under 500.
500.
Yeah. Maybe unless you're Gucci. Gucci's a
because
little
if you buy new, they immediately degrade. Just the way that you would buy a new car, it loses a lot of its value once you come off the lot. You can go to a site like Chrono24, and you can buy yourself a used watch, and they've already absorbed a lot of the downside. One of my favorite things to do is a historically refurbished watch. So you can actually...
I don't know. Chrono24, yes, has absorbed some of the hit of the retail, but quite frankly, on Chrono24, that's probably some of the most expensive used watches you can buy.
It's true.
In fact, many of the watches on Chrono24 are above retail, especially if you're looking for specialty Rolexes, APs, Pateks. Those watches are above retail on Chrono. So I kind of disagree with that statement that you're going to get a deal on those brands. There are deals on Chrono, but those aren't the deals.
Not in that range.
Go and you can find on eBay World War II watches that were in combat or that somebody was issued during World War II. A lot of them don't run really well, but for a couple of $100 you can take it to a watchmaker and they can fix the gut.
All right, let's stop right there. In 1980, you could maybe take to a watchmaker for a couple $200. Watchmakers today, like real watchmakers, make serious salaries. They're highly skilled technicians. I can tell you this, if you have a luxury watch and you send it in for service, for example, a Rolex, and not that we carry Rolex, but let's take that because that's probably the most recognizable luxury brand. You're going to have a hard time getting out for under $700, $1,000 for basic service. We just had one sent to Rolex, $4,700 service from Rolex. So I would tell you, you're a little bit wrong there. Maybe to have your watch clean might be $100 or $200, but service where you actually take the movement apart, clean, oil, adjust, regulate time, get a warranty on the watch from a true watchmaker, you're spending probably in excess of $400 to $500 starting.
Easily.
And it's probably mostly $695, $795 for that service on most watches. So I'm going to tell you, you're a little bit off on your pricing.
Especially if you're looking at old World War II pieces, sourcing components for that type of stuff is not really in that $200 range. A lot of that may have to be remade. They may not even be able to use any of the movement that's in there. It may be an entirely new movement. In which case, yeah, no. So
to your point, a true watchmaker knows how to make these parts from scratch. They have a lathe in their shop. They can actually make parts. Making parts is not inexpensive. The other way to do this is to find the same watch on eBay and buy it and strip the parts to make one watch out of 2 watches, or maybe
three watches or 4 watches.
3 or 4 watches for one watch. That's not $200 or $300. Anyway, I disagree with you there.
The guts of the watch, they can fix the insides of the watch, and then it'll run fine. This is one of my first watches. They are really quite tiny, very many of them. They look very small by today's standards, but it is very cool because you own a piece of history. So I recommend that to people who are looking at kind of that lower price point, but want something different, unique, and cool. So if you're building a collection, Okay, and you're building a collection for the long term. You want to pass it on to your kids. You want it to increase in value over time. There's what are called the big three. The big three, I'm skipping forward a little bit. The big three are typically Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, and Audemars Piguet. Those are known as the big three. They do hold their value over time. Now, I will say they've taken a severe value hit over the course of the last couple of years, because a couple of years ago, when inflation started to kick in, there were a bunch of Bitcoin billionaires who lost a lot of money, and they started flooding the market with some of these watches. So if you, like I did, bought some expensive watches a couple of years ago, you picked the wrong time to buy those watches. But if you wait long enough, they will go back up. Longines makes...
Hang on. I should have played that. Hold on. Oops, hold on.
Makes really pretty stuff.
He said
Longines.
Longines. Okay, first of all, it's Longines. But let's talk about those luxury brands. He picked 3 luxury brands, which those are really extreme luxury.
Yeah.
For the average person out there watching at least our video, those are brands that are most not attainable for probably 99% of the world, maybe 99.5% of the world. The brand that he really left out that truly retains its value is Rolex. And I think he missed a few other ones. For example, Cartier is a great brand that retains its value. In fact, highly collectible. In fact, the old Cartiers are super valuable today. So you missed a few there. But let's talk about, I agree with you, the crypto millionaires or billionaires, as you call it, made a lot of money, bought a lot of watches. The world in itself, after COVID, thought luxury watches was an asset class. They thought you could just go buy a watch at a local AD and then make money. So the watch flipping business got extremely popular, and people found a way to make quick money. You know, and you didn't have to make a lot of money on a watch, you just had to make a lot of deals. You make $250, $500 on a watch, okay, that's not enough money to feed your family, but if you do that 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, that turns into a real salary at the end of the year. So it did create that. However, the market has changed, the world has changed, everything is not above retail anymore. Many watches have come below retail, and especially the brands that you just said. All those high-end brands, as you said, there was a lot of people who got super wealthy. You know what? All those people are selling their watches now because they don't have the money. The world has changed. The one brand that stands out to me that still is above retail is Rolex. Any sport model, any specialty model from Rolex, you're going to have a hard time finding at an AD at retail, which is why the market on those APs, Richard Milles, some Patek models. What was the other?
Audemars, Vacheron.
Vacheron, specifically Vacheron. And he said Vacheron. I don't think Vacheron's one that holds its value as much as the other ones. AP, I would agree with. Patek, I would agree with, and I would have substituted Rolex for.
Yeah. Vacheron, though, is what these guys were buying. I mean, they wanted that same look. It's the same look, the same watch essentially from all 3 brands.
Gerald Genta.
Gerald Genta designed the Royal Oak for AP, the Nautilus for Patek, and the Overseas for Vacheron, and it looks very similar. And the watches absolutely took, because people couldn't do anything else with their money, so they spent it on these watches and artificially inflated the market. And the market has shifted, the market has changed, and things are coming back to normalcy. And unfortunately, Ben, you bought it at a wrong time for most of these things.
And people found other things to spend their money on.
Absolutely.
So, for a while it was watches and luxury goods, and now it's other stuff. So, yeah, the world has changed. I don't necessarily agree that the world will ever get back to that height of that market where you would buy a $80,000 watch and you could sell it for $250,000.
No. Or a $30,000 watch for $100,000.
Yeah, I just don't see it going back to that. There are a few specialty watches here and there, but the market was insane for 2 years and every watch was like that. Now it's just like 1 or 2 watches here or there. So anyway, let's see what else you got to say here, Ben.
Omega makes beautiful stuff. There's a bunch of stuff from Omega that's really nice. I have a bunch of Omega watches, actually. I have one of my first watches was given to me by my grandmother.
How many first watches do you have?
My grandfather had owned it. It was Omega Constellation. That's like $700, $800 probably. Some of the new Omega watches are really pretty. Like the James Bond watch, I really love. I wear that one all the time.
Used.
Tag Heuer, as I mentioned before, you can get like a used tag for under $3,000. Breitling.
Yeah, you probably buy a used tag for $1,000, right?
One of my first watches was a Breitling
Again,
Super Ocean.
The first watch.
Again,
first of all,
folks,
that was not your first watch.
Isn't
That
for everyone,
watch
so
is
I'm
a
giving
modern
everybody
watch.
sort
That
of
watch's only been out for a couple
gradation
years.
here of what you're willing to spend. And frankly, if you're looking for investment by stocks, Like,
Yes.
don't buy watches. If
I
you're
agree
looking
with you
for
there.
investment. It's more of a hobby than anything else.
Unless
if you're
you're
looking
a
up to like
flipper doing it every
$10,000,
day.
then you could get a used Rolex Submariner, which is sort of the baseline as classic luxury watch. And there's so many watches that are based on the Rolex Submariner.
This is true.
One of the watch brands that's kind of in the under 10 grand range, that's really beautiful and looks more expensive than it is Jaeger LeCoultre, JLC.
Do you say under $10,000?
Yeah, I don't know what you're getting under 10 from that.
Hang on a second. Ben, what are
Under
you talking
10?
about? Look at the watch.
First of all, that's
a
not under
rose
10.
gold reverso. That watch is
Gyro
probably,
tourbillon.
oh, that
That's
watch is
probably
like
like hundreds of
$100,000.
thousands of dollars.
$100,000 watch. Are you kidding me? First of all, in the entire Jaeger lineup, we just had a meeting with them in Switzerland last year, and that's a brand that we're aspire to carry here. We really hope that someday you'll be able to buy Jaeger at Albert's. It's one of the brands that we actually cover.
We're going after it.
To be honest with you, there's nothing in the lineup under 10,000. I think the price point started at 15.
Maybe
12.
a ladies' watch. I mean, but there's nothing really under 10 from Jaeger.
No, you're off there. And the watches you're showing here are like $100,000 watches.
So it actually, you pop out the face of the watch, flip it over.
It's
screw it back
super
in,
cool.
And now it has a completely different face on the
least
watch.
expensive
which is
one of
really,
these
really
is
neat.
like, what,
Originally,
20?
it was
Yeah.
designed for people who played polo. So it would flip out and it wouldn't have a second face. It would flip it over and it would just be a hard case back.
You are
And
true
that
there.
meant that nobody,
Okay, you got
that if it got
something
scratched
right.
up, you wouldn't care. It wouldn't break the glass on the watch. So there you go. There's like a full, quick rundown of various watches.
You
various
missed a
price
lot of
points.
brands
So this
in
is a
there,
very
buddy.
basic intro. I'm sure I got a bunch of things wrong. Remember, I'm not an actual watch expert. There are plenty of people who know way more than I do, so I'm sure if I screwed it up, they'll leave tons of comments below.
Anyway, we will. By the way,
It's a fun
kudos
thing
for
to
doing
collect.
this video.
Again, if you like kind of men's jewelry, this is pretty much what you got.
All right. Kudos for doing the video. I think you did a well job. You're well spoken. You're a handsome guy. You got some stuff wrong. We're going to call you on your bullshit, but
And we did.
and we did.
Don't you worry.
But anyway, you got a lot right, but you missed several important brands, several important styles within the brands you were talking about. But you know, I'd say 75%
Not
all
bad.
around pretty good video.
Although I do like how you had 12 different first watches.
Yeah.
I mean, that's and quite
Especially
the
the
collection.
Super Ocean. That's like
Yeah, that's only a few years old now. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.